Good morning. Today we discuss about the famous poem by Robert Browning, Fra Lippo Lippi, lines 31 to 45. Before we jump into the poem, let's look at some of the important points to remember about the poem Fra Lippo Lippi. Fra Lippo Lippi was written by Robert Browning in 1855. It is a dramatic monologue running in the length of 376 lines. The poem is written in blank verse with each line following the meter of iambic pentameter. It is important that this poem not to be confined by a rhyme scheme, as Browning needs the lines to sound like a conversation. Browning was inspired to write this poem after reading about Filippo Lippi from Lives of Artists. The poem is about a monk called Lippi who sneaks out of the church and was caught by the watchman. It is a discourse on the purpose of art, on the responsibility of the artist, the limits of subjectivity, the inadequate of moral shapes and structures, and lastly, a triumph of dramatic voice. Coming to the poem, line 31. And all comes square again. I did like his face, his elbowing on his comrade in the door, with the pike and lantern, for the slave that holds John Baptist's head a dangle by the hair with one hand. Look you now, as who should say, and his weapon in the other yet unwiped. It's not your chance to have a bit of chalk, a wood, coal, or the like, or you should see. At this point, it appears that the guards are apologizing for what they have done, for their mistakes, but Lippi tells them that he is not angry for them for what they have done because they were all square in the end. He claims that he's not angry at all. He even offers to buy the dudes a drink if they ever come by his monastery, but he still sounds pretty ticked off when he describes how he'd like to paint one of them as a murderous slave, the one with dangling John Baptist head in one hand and the bloody murder weapon, unwiped murder weapon in the other hand. This statement is both threatening and Lippo continues to say that unfortunately he couldn't picturize this because there was no chalk nearby. Still, since there is no chalk handy, this vision has to go unpainted. Even without chalk, though one of the cops seems to recognize Lippo as the famous painter. Yes, I'm the painter since you style me so. What brother Lippo's doings up and down, you know them and they take you like enough. I saw the proper twinkle in your eye. Tell you I like your looks at very first. Let's sit and set things straight now. Hip to haunch. Here's spring come and the nights of one makes up bands to roam the town and sing out carnival. When one of the cops recognized Lippo as a famous painter, Lippo immediately turns the full beam of charm on him, invites him to sit down, and starts to tell him his life story. After saying these lines, Lippo takes the opportunity to announce to the man after being recognized that he's a painter in the question. This comment encourages Lippi to launch into the larger story of his life. He wants to make sure that he can set his whole situation straight. He believes, or at least says, that they need to know more details about his life. At the beginning of the story, it is springtime, and Lippo is working on a number of paintings, all of which seems to be concern of saints. Uh, He describes about spring, bird chirping, bees buzzing, animal pairing, and don't forget about the carnival, the rackets, party sections. During this time, Aleppo points out merry bands of people grouped together and roam in the streets of Bourbon Street style. Actually, Lippo was orphaned while still a baby and starved until his aunt gave him over to the convent. When the monks there asked if he was willing to renounce the world in the service of monkhood, Lippo was quick to agree since renouncing the world meant a steady supply of food in the convent. He quickly took the monk's life even at 8 years old but was undistinguished in any of the studies they had him attempt. That's how Lippi became a monk. Coming towards the message and theme of the poem, Fra Lippo Lippi is all about the conflict between art and religion, and Browning uses our good friend Bro Lippo as his mouthpiece. The central theme of Fra Lippo Lippi then is that the function of painting should be capture the actual beauty of God's creation and by doing so to reveal the invisible spiritual beauty of his creature. Throughout this poem, Browning depicts a 15th century real life painter, Filippo Lippi. The poem asks question whether art should be true to life or an idealized image of life. Thank you.